Marvel's Avengers released pretty negatively when it originally released, a bit like Cyberpunk, Destiny 2, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. However, those other titles slowly pulled themselves out of the mud. Well, Cyberpunk is still pulling, but the point is they turned into basically better games. When Avengers' first DLC dropped with Kate Bishop, and check out my review for that if you're interested, it had a decent story and a new character. However, Hawkeye, Future and Imperfect drops the ball like Joss Whedon directing Justice League.
Let me live. You won't let me die.
Hawkeye, Future and Imperfect is tied to the previous DLC drop of Operation Taking Aim, where Kate Bishop tracks down Hawkeye only to find that Hawkeye is working with AIM going back in time. At the end of the DLC, Hawkeye explains that in the future the Kree attack Earth, and AIM, Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. all join forces to take them out. Hawkeye goes into the future to find a way to fight against the Kree and prevent this rip-off Old Man Logan future from ever happening, and I'll get to that a bit later. Now you'll start the DLC a couple of months after the end of the previous DLC with Hawkeye recovering from his time travel coma. Now during the coma he hallucinates Old Man Hawkeye, which in the books is a great character, while here it's pretty eh. Anyways, you'll start off the DLC playing as Old Man Hawkeye in this apocalyptic wasteland before going back to the current time period. The story plays out from here that you'll need to go back to the future.
Get the hell out of my car, old man!
And find that time era's Nick Fury to help prevent this from ever happening. Now with this DLC, and it's free DLC I might add you unlock the character of Hawkeye, which in my opinion is just poor timing. Now being Hawkeye and the master archer that he is, he's loosely based around the Matt Fraction comic period. I mean, just look at his outfit. You'll start the DLC by looking for Hawkeye's dog in Brooklyn to gather important information, and I use that term very loosely, but important data that Hawkeye has hidden on his dog. Once you find what you need, you and a crew of 3 other Avengers will travel to the future in a modified Quinjet and find Fury. Hawkeye's gameplay though is pretty shit. Hawkeye's main weapon is obviously a bow and arrow, and his close range weapon is a katana, basically making him Ronin more than Hawkeye, and he's also exactly the same as Kate Bishop, who also used a sword for close range attacks. Personally, it would have been cool if Hawkeye used his bow as his close range weapon, turning it into a staff like how he does in the Civil War movie. Just like Iron Man and Kate, Hawkeye will be able to change what arrows that he fires, and they're basically exactly the same as Kate's. He'll have normal arrows, scattershot arrows firing 3 at once, and an explosive arrow, but instead of exploding on impact, you'll be able to manually detonate them. Now Hawkeye's got special abilities, and one of which is a healing arrow which is fired on the ground, providing an area of effect healing stasis field, which I honestly don't mind. His offensive ability is firing a cluster of explosive arrows into the air, raining down on enemies in the designated field, basically like casting a spell in World of Warcraft or something. Finally, Hawkeye's ultimate ability turns him into fucking Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. He fires a AI arrow that flies around the field attacking 10 enemies, and of course it can be upgraded as you level up your character. Now each character in the game has a intrinsic ability. Holding down the right trigger will activate this, and it will drain from the gauge just underneath the health bar. For example, Captain America can block and deflect most attacks. Thor can use the Odin Force to shock enemies around him and charge up his attacks, and the Hulk has Rage, which just deals more damage. Hawkeye's intrinsic ability is so shit I never used it throughout the entire campaign, and it's dodging. By holding the right trigger, Hawkeye will be able to dodge melee attacks. Yep. Besides the fact that there's already a dodge system in the game that all characters can use, what makes Hawkeye so special that he can automatically dodge attacks like he's got the fucking spider sense? Now, traversal for Hawkeye is basically what you'd expect. Now, he's a mixture of Captain America being able to run really fast, somewhat supernaturally superhuman fast, and wall run, and also use his bow and arrow to shoot grappling hooks, pulling himself up ledges and swinging off lampposts, again, like Spider-Man. Understandably, Hawkeye has no real abilities, but when you think about it, we've basically gotten all modes of traversal covered already. New heroes like Doctor Strange will probably fly around the map like Thor. The new character of Black Panther will most likely sprint really fast and maybe have a decent jump like the Hulk. This won't change unless we get open sandbox areas and vehicles, and then flying characters can maybe fly faster than a $30 drone. Now, Hawkeye basically feels like a male version of Kate Bishop. Well, actually, he is.
But she's got a new hat.
Yes, I get it that Kate is a student of Hawkeye, but Batman is also different to Robin. You're playing as the Master Archer, so rather than having 3 different arrows that you can fire, why not have, say, 6? You're a ranged character, so you should have massive variety of arrows available rather than just the stock standard 3 that Kate can use. If there was a shock arrow that could stun and do additional enemies to robotic characters, actively use your grappling hook arrow rather than just a button prompt so you can actively look around the map and try and find your own vantage point. Net arrows that can stun and hold down enemies, especially if they're the quicker variant enemies. Now I've recently gone back and started playing Destiny 2, and it's interesting that using the bow and arrow in Destiny is more fun than playing as Hawkeye in an Avengers game. Let that sink in for a moment. First person Destiny, bow and arrow, is better than playing as Hawkeye. Something seems wrong about this, right? Anyways, the story here is also pretty fucking shit. The end of the previous DLC teased a war with the Kree and basically the end of the world where most, if not all, of the Avengers die. Now the DLC here is only 2 to 3 hours long, and the DLC wraps up the entire Kree end of the world story. Now I'll be going into spoilers here too, so if you don't want to be spoiled, just a heads up. Alright, so here we go. Hawkeye and Old Man Hawkeye need to track down shield bunkers looking for Nick Fury, and they go into rival gang territory to the crashed helicarrier, the Chimera, which is your base of operations in basically the game. And if you've seen the trailers, you already know that Maestro, the evil Hulk, is in the game, and surprise surprise, he's the leader of the evil faction gang. Now you'll fight Maestro in a boring boss fight where he'll do, I guess, some unique attacks, but it's like fighting the Abomination, but worse. Maestro or the evil Hulk will lunge at you, and then he'll get angry and use his Rage Incendic ability, which, you know, the Hulk can use because you can play as the Hulk and actually use that ability, but then he'll slam the ground, causing the roof overhead to fall down onto you. Now the trailer for the DLC gave all of these decent moments away, sort of like how the trailer for Gemini Man basically ruined the entire story of that film. Now after the boss fight with Maestro or Evil Hulk, he tells you to venture outside the storm surrounding the wasteland because, you know, the game never actually explains that there's a giant storm surrounding the wastelands. But anyways, you'll go and you'll find Nick Fury, Maria Hill, S.H.I.E.L.D., AIM, and even Monica with the Cosmic Cube frozen in time fighting the Kree. The entire Apocalypse story is wrapped up and ended because at the start of the DLC, Hawkeye mentions that he's looking at retiring. Now, modern age Hawkeye says to Old Man Hawkeye that he'll make sure something like this never happens by not retiring. That's basically how the war and the apocalypse is averted, by not retiring.
You don't have to make the mistakes that I did.
Don't make the same mistake I did.
The war-torn world of this post-Kree invasion just also feels off. The character of Old Man Hawkeye was created in the Old Man Logan comic book series, and the story and the reason for the world that it is in this state in the comic book is absolutely fantastic. Here it just feels like they sort of just wanted to use the character of Old Man Hawkeye and Maestro from Old Man Logan, and they just haphazardly threw a story together and just see if the shit stuck to the wall. Even having Hawkeye and Kate Bishop released back to back is like going to the box factory twice.
Class, instead of going to the box factory today, we'll be going to the box factory.
Hawkeye Future Imperfect DLC was disappointing to me as Charlie's Angels was for Elizabeth Banks. Having said all of that though, the new location of the Wasteland in Marvel's Avengers is detailed and it's pretty as fuck. Now while yes the enemies are still aimbots and mercenaries, I think Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix are starting to create larger open areas with heaps of detail. I also played this on a Xbox Series X with the next gen upgrade and it looked fantastic. Now I had no technical issues while playing Avengers, which is saying something as the bugs when Avengers originally released were game breaking to the point where I flat out could not finish the campaign. Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix have released a roadmap as well for upcoming DLC, and while most of it is softer things like challenge rooms and MCU inspired skins, and of course the teaser of Monica with the Cosmic Cube, we are getting bigger DLCs. The big DLC announced for this year is Black Panther, whose game outfit actually looks really fucking cool. We're also finally getting some new enemy variants rather than just fucking aimbots and mercenaries with Claw, and yes, we'll be going to Wakanda. I'm just hoping that we actually get a decent story that doesn't start or end with, well, we avoided this whole apocalyptic future because, you know, Old Man Hawkeye over here didn't go into retirement.
I'm 2 days away from retirement. My daughter's graduating from college.
Little Susie's growing up.
With all that being said, and this is my opinion of course of the new DLC, What DLC characters would you like to see in Marvel's Avengers? If you've not already played Avengers, what DLC character would you actually like to come into the game and make you stop and actually look at the game? If you've played the DLC, what's your thoughts? Should I keep covering the Avengers game and all the new DLC drops? I want you to let me know in the comments down below.